Three. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Menopause Supports. My name is Sinead McNamara. I'm the founder and co-director of the National Menopause Summit. I forgot there for a second what I was the founder and co-director for, but that's Meno Brain for you. I think something everybody who watches this channel will be pretty familiar with. But anyway, welcome to our next chapter of Menopause Supports. And today we are going to talk about all things nutrition with the wonderful Dr. Samantha Cushen. And Dr. Samantha Cushen is a lecturer, a researcher and a CORU registered dietitian at University College Cork. And we were delighted to have Samantha join us at our Cork Summit. She made a great contribution at the Cork Summit last October. So thrilled to be having a chat with you this morning, Samantha. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Sinead. Thanks for having me. And thanks to Aoibhinn, actually, the dietitian who was at the summit last year, to share the stage with me. She was brilliant.
Yeah, she was. Aoibhinn
no, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So, of course, we know that, lifestyle interventions can be very helpful during menopause. And of course, one of those lifestyle interventions really is, in layman's term, sort of looking at your diet and cleaning up your diet. So just in terms of that, I was keen to kick off with the subject of ultra-processed foods with you, Samantha, because I think anybody who's online and who isn't these days sees everybody talking about ultra-processed foods. And I'm going to make a reference here, and I'm not even working for Chris Van Tullochen, who is a doctor that does a lot of work on BBC, actually, is an amazing book called Ultra-Processed People, Why We Eat All the Stuff That Isn't Food and Why We Can't Stop. And I would recommend that for anybody who has an interest in this subject, and it's very readable and all the rest. So ultra-processed foods, Samantha, what are they and why should they be avoided?
Okay, so you're right. There is loads all over social media on ultra-processed foods. And I think I work in an environment here in UCC where I work with food scientists who would actually work around, work on formulation and work on actually creating foods for specific purposes. But ultra-processed foods are foods that, in layman's terms, are foods that you can't recreate in your kitchen. That's kind of, when you read that book, that's kind of the message that you get across, that there's so many ingredients on the list of ingredients on the label that a lot of the ingredients you don't even understand what they are. So if you don't recognize some of the actual list of ingredients on a food label, it's probably an ultra-processed food. Ultra-processed foods, though, they're manufactured to be cheap, to be convenient, to have long shelf life. And that's why a lot of the ingredients are in the food. It's to keep them stable on the shelf. And they're generally like a ready-to-eat type of food as well. Ultra-processed foods, they're designed to be hyper-palatable, so to be super tasty. And that means you want to eat more of them and more of them.
Indeed.
Now, the thing is, not all ultra-processed foods are bad, though, Sinead. And that's where the confusion lies. And that's where we get this misinterpretation, because there's lots of foods on the market that are ultra-processed that are convenient, but that can have a benefit to our diet. Examples would be anything that's been tinned, like baked beans, for example. Great source of protein. And you can get baked beans that are low in sugar, low in fat, low in salt, and they can be part of the diet. It's about frequency, and it's about how much you eat of anything, Sinead. And that's why when I'm even teaching kids, or I'm teaching young kids, or if I'm teaching adults in the university, I try and guide people as to there's no good or bad foods. Food is food. Just how much you eat of anything. You should eat more of some foods and less of others. And typically when we talk about ultra-processed foods, the foods I would be saying to eat less of are the foods that you'd find at the top of the food pyramid. So anything that's like high fat, sugar and salt, chocolate bars, crisps, baked confectionary goods. They're all part of the diet. You can still eat them, just don't eat as much of them as you would the foods that are lower down on the food pyramid, like fresh fruit and veg. A food that will come in there, and that's actually on the front cover of that book, is bread.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. He's quite a lot to say about bread.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I would be a total advocate for having whole grain breads, having high fiber breads. They do come in under as being processed. And if you read that book, but you can choose, again, this is where it's giving some knowledge to people around how to read food labels. You can choose specific breads that are lower in sugar if you want to, and lower in salt. Some breads have got, they've been fortified with calcium. Fantastic for women
Mm.
going through menopause. Fantastic for children if they've been added vitamins and minerals to the bread. So, there is pros and cons to ultra processed foods, but some foods really do have a place in the diet, especially when they've been fortified, Sinead, with
Yeah.
extra added vitamins and minerals.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Fantastic. And what about breakfast cereals? Because I
Yeah.
know breakfast cereals get, and I'm not talking about porridge here or oats. We're
Okay.
talking about all of the sort of mass-produced breakfast cereals. What's your take on those, Samantha?
Okay. Same thing applies here. There is a place for them in the diet, and especially what we find, Sinead, is with kids. They
Mm.
get the majorities of their vitamins and minerals in Ireland from ready-to-eat breakfast cereals. They're a huge contributor to fiber in the diet, even.
Yeah.
So I would just guide people to choose cereals that have a lower content of sugar. So
Mm.
if you're looking at the food label, you look at per 100 grams on the food label, less than 5 grams of sugar per 100 grams. That's a low sugar cereal. That's
Mm.
a good thing.
Right.
Try and choose a cereal then that has high fiber. So more than 6 grams of fiber per 100 grams. If you just look for sugar and fiber and try go for high fiber, low sugar,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I think breakfast cereals have a place in the diet, especially with young kids, because what you'll find with a lot of the cereals now on the market, again, a lot of them can be fortified with calcium and iron, and they can be major contributors to those minerals in people's diets.
Yeah.
For women going through menopause, definitely look for lower sugar, high fiber options. The higher fiber, the better. So,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, porridge and oats, they're handy go-to options. But
Yes.
Weetabix, all bran, there's
Yeah.
good options out there.
Yeah. Perfect. That's perfect. And of course, we know that calcium is so incredibly
Mm,
important for women,
yeah,
and for everybody, let's be honest, but just in the
true.
context of this conversation, very important for women, and particularly at menopause. What is your take, Samantha, on the non-dairy milks, let's call them, like the
Okay.
oat milks and that kind of thing? What would your view on those be?
Well, again, it's like the ultra processed foods. You'll see them all over the media at the moment, and there's been a huge rise in the use of plant-based dairy and or plant-based milks, I should say, the non-dairy equivalents. The main thing to talk about here when we talk about plant-based dairy is just, first of all, the risks of osteoporosis going through menopause.
Yes.
So early menopause, especially before the age of 45,
Yeah.
and especially even before the age of 40, will raise the risk of osteoporosis in women. And as women go through menopause, as part of the natural aging process and as estrogen levels go down, the risk of osteoporosis goes up.
Mm.
So we have to be very conscious of that. And the nutrients of concern going through menopause when it comes to bone would be calcium, vitamin D. They'll be your two big nutrients to be concerned about. So when it comes to calcium, you're looking at trying to get in around 800 to 1200 milligrams of calcium per day. What
Right.
that equates to in food, you're looking at least 3 portions of dairy, and I'll give you the equivalent now in the non-dairy sources, but
Okay.
we get the majority of our calcium through dairy in the Irish diet. And a portion of dairy is like a standard pot of yogurt, 125-gram pot of yogurt
Right.
contains around 200 to 300 milligrams of calcium. So that's one portion. Then you'd be looking at having the milk in your cereal or your teas and coffees throughout the day.
Mm.
And then another portion might be cheese or another yogurt or more milk if you want.
Right.
And a portion of milk would be around 200 mils of milk. So I don't have one here with me, but usually it's those little plastic cups, you get at a water fountain.
Yes.
And if you fill that up with milk, that's usually around 200 mils of milk.
Okay,
And
that's good to know. That's handy to
yeah,
know. Yeah.
that's what we'd use anyway for trying to work out portions. So 3 portions of calcium-rich foods from your dairy per day. If you're not getting in that, and you're going for plant-based milks, which is perfectly fine, but they're not all equal. So when you look at the nutritional content of a plant-based milk versus dairy, they're not equal in terms of nutrition, in terms of the nutrients that you find in dairy. So for example, if you take like a soya milk,
Mm.
you can have unsweetened soya, you can have sweetened soya, you can have organic. They can all be very, very different in terms of what's been added to them.
Yeah.
And the way in which you even absorb the calcium from plant-based dairy, like, is very, very, I keep saying plant-based dairy. They're not dairy, but plant-based milks is what I should say.
Yeah.
The way in which you even absorb the calcium from those products, it's not the same as the way you absorb it from cow's milk, if you
Right.
will. Now, when you look at the array of plant-based milks on the market, what I would advise women to do is pick one that's been fortified. And what I mean by fortified is that they've added in calcium to the plant-based milk, because they won't have the same concentration or the highest level of calcium like your dairy will.
Yes, yeah.
So a lot of them they don't have calcium added into them as standard. It's not standard practice to add in calcium to plant-based milks. So just look at the label. What you should also look to see as well is if they've added in iodine, because we, as the population in Ireland, we get a lot of our iodine through dairy. You wouldn't get much iodine at all through your plant-based milks.
And
So,
what is iodine important for, Samantha?
oh gosh, like it's so important for brain function,
Okay.
for brain function, and for every part of your body. I could incorporate iodine. I could tell you the benefits of iodine, but even if we just stick with brain, it's so vital in life cycle nutrition. We'd be really, really adamant that women who are pregnant or who are in preconception, who are thinking about getting pregnant, ensure they've got enough iodine, because it's really important for the development of the fetus.
Okay,
But,
okay.
so calcium and iodine, and then vitamin D. Vitamin D, so important. And it's the one
Yes.
vitamin at the summit last year. It's the only thing, if you want to remember one thing from today's talk, take vitamin D. Irish people don't get enough of it. You get vitamin D from sunlight. You can get tiny amounts from the diet, but tiny amounts.
Yeah.
We don't eat enough of those foods anyway to get in sufficient vitamin D for our bones, for our
Yeah.
bone health. So I would totally advocate that you would take a supplement of vitamin D. But if you're looking at plant-based milks, see if vitamin D's been added in, because a lot of the milks now on the market, even the dairy milks, have vitamin D added into them, like your
Yes. Yeah,
super
yeah.
milks, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. Yeah.
And then the other point to make is if it's an organic plant-based milk, it won't have anything added to it. So it won't have calcium, it won't have vitamin D, it won't have iodine, but it won't even have B vitamins. So
Yeah.
there's when I do the summit now in April, I have a slide, Sinead, where I'll compare soy milk that's been fortified versus an unfortified soy milk, like an organic. So anything
And you know what,
organic.
can I just jump in for one
Yeah.
second, Samantha? Just as the average consumer on the street, and let's say you're going down the plant-based milks and you see organic, you go, well, I'd go, and I'm not in this zone because
Yeah.
I drink regular milk. I'd go, oh, well, I'll have that one. Do you know what I mean? And then as you say, then all of these integral important ingredients are missing. But you see organic and you
You
go,
automatically
that's the one
associate
for me.
organic with health, and you think
Yes.
it's healthier.
Yes.
When it comes to menopause and it comes to bone health, unfortunately, the organic plant-based milks are not healthier. You need a milk that has calcium, vitamin D, even B vitamins. B vitamins
Yeah.
can help with brain function and brain fog. You need it for energy. So my goal here is to just get women to be able to start to read the ingredients on food labels correctly.
Absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
other little tip I will say is if you are getting a plant-based milk, shake it before you take it, because
Right. Okay.
calcium can sit to the bottom of the carton when it's been fortified. So just shake the carton of milk, and
Okay.
that will ensure that you get in the extra fortification that has been added into the milk.
Okay, interesting. And what about all our sisters that are vegans? That has to be extremely challenging in terms of making sure that you're hitting all those markers, particularly at menopause, in terms of the nutrients. What would your best advice to vegans be?
Yeah, no, that like it's harder, definitely. You have to plan out your meals to ensure that you've got a good balance over the course of the day, and it takes a lot of organization. And unfortunately, a lot of people wouldn't be that organized when it comes to planning their
Yeah,
meals. Now, if you are vegan, the same rule applies for the milks, because you can still, choose the fortified plant-based milks.
yeah,
So that still applies. And I suppose then, like you just have to, you possibly might need supplementation, and that's something to discuss with your GP or
right.
your healthcare provider. It might be worthwhile actually getting your vitamin D levels checked as
Mm,
well.
mm,
Um, but I would highly recommend that you definitely get in at least 3 to 4 portions of fortified plant-based alternatives.
mm.
Take a vitamin D supplement. And then the other thing that's really important for bone health, and that's integral to maintaining the strength of bones, is protein. And that's really important for our vegans, but as well for non-vegans, to make sure we're getting in enough protein, because that
Yes.
actually helps with the, bone formation and strength of our bones. So ensuring enough high quality protein would be a big factor in the vegan diet, Sinead.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You wouldn't want to be jumping in blind to veganism now without doing your homework.
Well, as a
And also,
dietitian, I would say no.
and also it would appear, I have a friend who went vegan a number of years ago, and she has become the most organized woman on planet Earth. So
Brilliant.
there's a lot of time, as you say, and organization
There
involved.
is, and it's perfectly healthy if that thought and process has gone into the
Yes.
planning behind it, to ensure you've got the balance of protein. And there's so much you have to think about, the macro, micronutrients, just to ensure overall health. But
Yes,
it can be
absolutely.
perfectly healthy, Sinead, once done with, like, I suppose, good support. And if there's good knowledge going into it and planning ahead, then
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Now, I know you're going to present some really compelling and interesting research at the Aviva Stadium in April, Samantha. So we won't give the secret away today, but you have been doing quite a lot of work with your team down there on supplements, because I know supplements is something, again, that sometimes people are a little confused about. But can you give us a little taster of the
Of
work that
course.
you've been doing?
Yeah, Sinead. So I have fantastic colleagues here with me, and I have a fantastic PhD student. Her name's Katie Johnston, and she's a registered dietitian, and she's been working on some big clinical trials here in Cork University Hospital, working with breast cancer survivors in particular. And one of the big things that came out of the research, Sinead, is that these women, now we didn't set up the trial wasn't set up for this particular
Right.
particular role at all. It just emerged out of talking with all these women. Now, there's over 200 women who've come through this clinical trial here in Cork. They've all had breast cancer, and because of their treatments, they can't take hormone replacement therapy.
Right.
So a lot of these women then turn to other methods to treat their debilitating symptoms, Sinead,
Yeah,
that
I
you
know.
well know.
Oh
The
God, yeah.
list is endless, and you've gone through it in
Yeah.
your other recordings on this channel. But so these women, they go to other alternatives. They're looking at supplements to try and treat hot flashes, to treat insomnia, to, night sweats. And it was through these conversations that we realized, wow, the amount of products that women are taking is phenomenal. And this is only in a small group of women that we were talking to. So imagine what's going on around the country. So what's come out of this research here with the women in Cork University Hospital is that we've now designed, I have the prototype here on my desk. I can't show
Excellent.
you yet. We have designed a booklet with the Irish Cancer Society, Sinead, that delves into menopause after cancer, because these are a
Right.
very specific cohort of women.
Of
But all
course.
of the dietary advice, Sinead, in this booklet applies to anyone going through menopause.
Mm.
It's just very tailored to after cancer, because there's certain supplements that we would advocate they don't take, purely because it interacts with their medications. But all the other dietary advice totally applicable to all women of Ireland going through menopause. So this booklet is going to be free of charge, and it's going to be hopefully out there in the next couple of months. Like we're finalizing it as we speak.
Great.
And
That's
that's kind of one project that's come out of the brilliant work that it's Professor Roisin Connolly actually is she's the principal investigator of this trial and the Women's Health Initiative here in Cork. But what we've also decided to do, Sinead, is because we realized we knew so little about the supplements that these women are taking. We conducted a market research last year where we went out and we looked at all the menopause supplements on the market in Ireland. And I'll be presenting some of the findings of that now this year,
Okay.
the summit in the Aviva. And that's going to be coming together in a report. But like Sinead, there's over, there's nearly 200 different supplements out there with
I
menopause
know. I'm a God.
related.
I know. I mean,
Crazy.
totally crazy, Samantha. And when I was, which everybody knows at this point, or anybody who's listened to me knows, that one of my sort of key aims behind the summit was to present fact-based information, because I felt that because there were so many products out there that people were confused and may not be making the best choices to safeguard their health moving forward. So we want to go from a fact-based perspective with the summit.
Yeah.
it's the way that we
which
go.
is brilliant. Yeah.
I know it is, absolutely. So, but it's mind blowing. I mean, you go down to any pharmacy and they literally have a menopause section full of
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So it's great to get some clarity. And by the way, just to say, obviously the summit is all about people making whatever choices work for them. I'm personally a HRT advocate because I'm lucky in that I'm not someone that falls into that complex category. So I have been able to take HRT and I chose to take HRT. But having said that, people can choose to manage their menopause in whatever fashion they wish. But I think key in making those decisions is knowledge.
Totally. And we're trying to upskill ourselves, like the,
Yeah.
the healthcare professionals. And I'll put my hand up, like we honestly don't know enough, especially around herbal supplements. That's
Yes.
the area that we just don't know enough about. And we'd find that even women who are taking HRT will take these botanical or these herbal supplements as well. And
Yes.
that's where we need to upskill. And that's what I'm trying to do with the research here in Cork, is to find out as much as possible around these supplements, to give that advice and to be able to give the facts to women so they can make informed decisions themselves. And
Exactly.
that when you go into a pharmacy and you see this whole array of supplements, that you know then what to look for. If you know, okay, do I really need ashwagandha, black cohort, or should I be looking for vitamin D? Should I
Yes.
be looking for calcium? Should I,
Yes.
it's giving women that knowledge and that power. Because again, the big thing here, Sinead, as well, is the cost of all these supplements. And what we found in just from doing the market research last year, the average cost per month, if you're just to buy one of these supplements every single month, at a minimum, it's going to cost 20 to 30 euros
Yeah.
extra
Yes.
per month,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yes.
When maybe you don't even need half of the ingredients in that supplement.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, Samantha, any of us women that are in HRT, if you're going to take some kind of supplements like that in that family of supplements on top of your prescription, it's so expensive. My HRT will go down to the pharmacy because I'm on an estrogen gel, a progesterone tablet, I'm on testosterone. And I actually I was going to mention this when you were speaking earlier. I got my doctor to include a vitamin D, a stronger vitamin D on my prescription than the vitamin D I bought over the counter. So maybe that's something worth considering asking your doctor also to throw onto your prescription. But again, discuss that with your doctor. I'm not a doctor. But that's coming in on average, Samantha, at like €65 a month. Now, if I was also interested in all of these other things, and because maybe I didn't realize I didn't need them, and I let 20, 30, €40 extra a month, just crazy money, insane money.
And you can put menopause now on something and just double the price straight away.
Yes,
and that,
exactly.
And that's something that we're doing. We're comparing all the ingredients in all these supplements now to actually see per cost for everything that you're getting in a supplement. Would you just be better off getting yourself a basic multivitamin that costs maybe €5 or €7?
Yes.
And then we give you the tips. Okay, well, you have to think about why you're buying the supplement. Is it because you're buying it for your health? Is it because you're buying it for a symptom? If it's for a symptom, a related reason, maybe there's other things, and that's what we can give you advice on. Like maybe there's other things you could do in your diet to help with those symptoms.
Exactly.
Rather than take a supplement.
Exactly.
Look, patients, clients, the public, they hate when we always say, look, we have to go with evidence-based advice.
Yes.
Because we know that's what works, but we do work on an individual basis with women to find out what they're taking, why they're taking it. And some women do get relief, Sinead, from taking certain supplements.
Yes. Yeah.
They do. And, as long as it's safe, I don't mind. That's it.
Yeah,
as long as
exactly.
it's safe.
Yeah, no. That's absolutely fantastic, Samantha. I'm just having a little look here on my notes. And just to make a reference to, we did a 2024 survey, the National Menopause Summit. We did our own menopause survey, which we did in February, and we had over 850 people respond, which we're absolutely delighted about. But one of the pieces of data that we captured was that 53% of people, from a knowledge perspective, did not feel prepared for their perimenopause and menopause journey. So, as you know, Samantha, we're delighted to have you as part of our soldiers in this regard. We're on an absolute mission to try and make sure that people have as much fact-based information as they possibly can. So, I think in terms of nutrition, this conversation has been really helpful, Samantha. So thank you so so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
I suppose, look, if someone is looking to get those facts and they're trying to find that information, I would always advise, if you want dietary information for menopause, go to the Irish Nutrition and Dietetic Institute. It's www.indi.ie.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's I suppose our body here in Ireland of dietitians. You can find registered dietitians there as well if you wanted one-on-one personal dietary advice. There's fantastic dietitians around the country that are expanding into this menopause area and that are able to give great dietary advice, or even to look for them on Instagram and social media and to follow those people rather than maybe influencers.
Exactly.
Go for look for registered dietitians even, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's a good few as well, again, on social media. But look, we're going to hopefully get some more facts out as well, Sinead, and that we'll be getting out to the public. And I think that's the key, is getting the facts out there. And we'll be getting them out through various different platforms, through the summit, through the Irish Cancer Society. And again, a lot of the research, even though it does involve cancer here in Cork, the advice is applicable to all women across the board. But look, I think what you're doing is fantastic, and it's a needed topic to discuss. And like, when it comes to nutrition, again, you've mentioned there's lots of misconceptions, and I suppose all we can do is try and fight the battle of all these. The nutribabble is what we call it. So we'll try and get the facts out, Sinead.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you have to be up early in the morning and have had your porridge to have the energy to do that every day,
and your vitamin D.
Because we're inundated with messages, as you say, from influencers and all of the kind of stuff online and all the rest. So hugely important to try and get the facts out there. Well, look, Samantha, that was fantastic. And thank you again so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we're really looking forward, obviously, to seeing you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Aviva Stadium on the 11th and 12th of April. So just on that subject, guys, where the 2024 National Menopause Summit will take place in the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. We are running the summit across 2 days, but you only need a 1-day ticket. There's been a little bit of confusion around that. So we are literally rolling out the same content on Thursday, the 11th, and Friday, the 12th of, I was going to say October, but that's wrong, of April, the 11th and 12th of April. And the whole idea of that is, I suppose, is to give as many people as possible the opportunity to experience the live event and get all the great information. But a huge amount of fact-based information can be found here on the National Menopause Summit YouTube channel. And as you know, if you've been a visitor to the channel, or if it's your first time here, please do subscribe, because we've got wonderful speakers and, you know, researchers and scientists in the style of Samantha here this morning, who really know their onions. Sorry about that's a little bit of a, exactly what we're talking about food, but anyway, excuse the pun. So, you know, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. So anyway, Samantha, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the Aviva in April.
I'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
Okay, no problem.